Considering that it's spring outside, it's usually cloudy and rainy most of the time, I think that the perfect movie to watch in order to pick you up in terms of happiness, a comfort movie to watch on a lazy Sunday or any other day during the week, are rom-coms. Rom-coms are my go-to films whenever I need to feel happy, or if I need to watch something light and breezy, or watch something that is not, heavy in terms of material, and just are easy to watch. I feel like rom-coms are the perfect movie to watch during this time period, or any time period in that matter. And yeah, I already did a list of Tamil movies to watch in that genre, but here are some Hollywood movies that I suggest you to watch if you're feeling like you need to watch something on a cloudy, rainy, very lazy day. So the only order I'm going by for these films are by the release date. So the first film on this list is Bringing Up Baby. This is a classic film. It's considered one of the greatest comedies in Hollywood history, and it has become a cult classic because when it first came out, it was a flop. Now, Bringing Up Baby is an excellent rom-com. It's technically a screwball comedy, but I consider it as a rom-com as well. Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant are excellent in this movie. It's very funny. I watched it a couple years ago during a retrospective on Katharine Hepburn, and I really loved it. I was very surprised. I went in with no expectations, not knowing what the film was about, and I was laughing throughout the whole movie. It was just a very fun, very joyous ride, and it is a great pick-me-up film. Even though the movie is like 90 years old, it is such a hilarious movie, and I suggest you to watch it if you've never seen it before. The next movie on the list is Roman Holiday, one of the greatest movies of all time in Hollywood history, and one of the greatest rom-coms in history too. This film has been copied so much to the point where when you watch a rom-com nowadays, at least one scene or one line has been copied from this movie. This is the blueprint towards rom-coms of modern day in terms of Hollywood and Tamil cinema. And the movie that made Audrey Hepburn into a big star, Gregory Peck, is really great in this movie too. And it was shot on location in Rome. So it's such a fun movie and such a nice, breezy entertainer as well. When Harry Met Sally, one of the greatest rom-coms of all time, one of the most natural and organic rom-coms of all time too. It feels very real. The characters here, the dialogue, everything feels like it's real life. Harry and Sally are really relatable characters played brilliantly by Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. I love this movie. It also is one of the best shot films in New York. New York feels like a character here. They show, I think, all 4 seasons, and it shows the beauty and the charisma of a city very well. And it amplifies the love story really well too. And again, a classic watch. 4 Weddings and a Funeral, one of the greatest written rom-coms of all time, and one of my favorite British films of all time too. Hugh Grant and Andie MacDowell are great here. I love the vibe of this movie. Richard Curtis, who wrote the script for this film, has written some of my favorite rom-coms. You'll see him a lot in this list. And yeah, it's just a great watch. And I love how they segmented their love story with 4 Weddings and a Funeral. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's a great watch. And I just love the camaraderie between the friend group here too. And yeah, go watch it if you've never seen it before. Technically, Jerry Maguire is a sports film, but it is a rom-com. And it's one of the rare times that you see Tom Cruise playing a very light, very laid-back role. Now he's known as the action hero, the kind of like the very dramatic guy. But I feel like Jerry Maguire was the one time where we really got to see a very soft and very laid-back Tom Cruise. And I really like this movie. I think his chemistry with Renee Zellweger here is really great. And it has one of the greatest rom-com soundtrack songs of all time, Secret Garden, which is performed by Bruce Springsteen. Very lovely song, very lovely film, and one of my all-time favorite 90s films as well. Technically, 10 Things I Hate About You is considered a teen comedy, but I consider it as a rom-com. This movie is really, really fun, and it's one of my favorite 90s films because it feels very much like a 90s film. It feels like a sitcom more than a movie, but I really like it. I think that Julia Stiles is great here. That crying scene at the end of the movie is excellent. I still cry with her character till this day whenever she starts crying. It's very powerful for a teen comedy. And also Heath Ledger, rest in peace. He's a legend. And this is the movie that made him into a big star. And you can tell why he became a big star after this. And this movie is full of great performances. It is a Shakespeare-influenced film. And it is probably top tier teen romantic comedy material. This is what teen rom-coms should aspire to be because it's a really good movie in general as well. And how in the world could you make a rom-com list without talking about Notting Hill? This is one of my all-time favorite movies. It has hints of Roman Holiday a little bit, but I feel like it is great on its own as well. Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant are amazing here. It is such a nice, like, fairy tale, like, rom-com story. I love the vibe of this movie. I love the characters in this movie. Obviously, Richard Curtis, again, wrote the screenplay for this film. It's one of my all-time go-to movies whenever I want to feel happy. And again, another movie with a great song in it. Shania Twain did this really amazing song. I forgot the title of it, but it is very beautiful, like this film as well. And yeah, if you've never seen Notting Hill, please watch it. It's a go-to rom-com movie that will make you happy. I watched this movie on a whim a couple of years ago and I loved it. I think the High Fidelity is such a great movie, great soundtrack, great characters, very raw and real, and a little bit different from your usual rom-com film. I think that John Cusack's very underrated in this genre, and yeah, such a great movie overall. And there was a really good TV series that was based on this movie as well that starred Zoe Kravitz. And ironically, her mom, Lisa Bonet, is in this film as well. And again, another John Cusack film. And Serendipity is a very fantastical rom-com in comparison to the other films in this list, but I love it. It's very cheesy. It's very fantastical in its story about like destiny and how people are meant to be with each other. And they barely meet for the whole film, but I love it. It's a very soft movie, great soundtrack again, and just has a great feel to it. I kind of miss these movies, and I wish Hollywood made movies like this again, even if they are cheesy. Love Actually is another Richard Curtis film. This time, he not only wrote the film, but he also directed it, his first ever directed film. And it's such a nice film. I love the Christmas feel. I love the romance. I love the comedy and all the anthology segments of this movie. And again, such a nice watch. It is such an ideal watch to watch during the holiday season and just makes you happy as well. Technically, She's the Man is a teen comedy, but I consider it as a rom-com. Amanda Bynes, I really miss her. I think she was hilarious in this movie. She is one of the most talented comedic performers of her generation. This movie is hilarious from top to bottom, and it was played on YTV all the time. If you're Canadian and you had YTV, She's the Man was one of the movies that they always played. It's a great movie. It's hilarious. One of the funniest last 20 minutes or so in film history, in my personal opinion. Great movie overall, and a great watch as well. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is one of my all-time favorite rom-coms, and like the poster says, is the ultimate romantic disaster movie. Now, this movie is perfect for anyone that's going through a heartbreak, going through a really bad breakup, and is trying to get over someone in their lives. Now, this movie is a little bit emotional at times, and it's very personal at times too, because Jason Segel actually wrote the screenplay for the movie. And I think it's well acted, it's really hilarious, very heartfelt in terms of its romance. And it has that Judd Apatow type of comedy too, so it makes you laugh because it's very silly at times too. But again, a really good movie to watch during that down point in your life, and a movie to help you realize that there are second chances and there will always be another person that you can love and help make you move forward in your life in terms of going through a really bad breakup. Mamma Mia is one of the greatest musicals of all time, and it is technically a musical comedy, but I consider it as a romantic comedy. It is fun from top to bottom. It's a very happy movie. I smiled while watching this movie throughout the whole duration of the film. It is such a nice movie to watch. Great performances, great music from, ABBA's discography, and one of the most happiest films you'll ever see. And the way they captured Greece was so beautiful. It is my go-to happy movie if I ever feel sad. If you've never seen 500 Days of Summer, please do, because it is the anti-romantic comedy. I won't say much after that, because if you've never seen this film, I want you to be surprised. It is very raw and real in a good way, and it is very fun in a good way too, and sad in a good way too. Yeah. Silver Linings Playbook is one of my all-time favorite fall movies. It makes me think of fall. Great romance, great comedy, and it's a little bit different from your usual rom-com. Crazy Stupid Love probably has the greatest ensemble cast that you'll ever see in a rom-com. Great movie and a lot of fun as well. And to end off this list, About Time, another Richard Curtis movie, and probably the last good rom-com.